Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to our the Mettle of a Sword series. Khalid bin Waleed radiallahu an. Um, we are obviously broadcasting from home for those who don't know, as the masjids have been shut down. So please click like and subscribe, and inshallah you'll find other great videos and seerah stories and biographies about the Ashra Mubashara and the um, uh, and other current events in Islam that need addressing. So please, on the Masjid Talks YouTube website, please click like and subscribe, and please give us a thumbs up on the videos. And if you have any questions, please put them in the live chat discussion. And inshallah, we'll begin. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامة من كل شيطان وهامة من كل عين لامة. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزينة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحان الله العظيم. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا وقرآن كتاب. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So as you can see my screen up here. Last week, we followed the events of the Rida Wars, and we saw that. Just a quick recap here. We saw Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, deal with the apostate tribes. He sent out forces, 11 different armies in all different directions. He took care of the initial attack in Medina himself, and then he sent Khalid radiallahu anh out on a mission that took him to the Aja Mountains, right? And he took care of Tulayha, the false prophet, and then he took care of Sajah and Salma, and then he took care of Malik bin Nuwaira, and then he took care of Banu Sulaim. Then he proceeded to Yamama to take care of Musaylimah the liar, and we went over all those details. One thing I did want to mention that we missed from last week, what was a loose string that I'd like to tie up, is what happens to Sajah. And now Sajah, she goes back. Remember, we said that she's from Bani Taghlib that lives in Iraq. She converts back to Islam. She accepts Islam, and she lives a quiet life, very rarely to be ever seen again. And, that's the end of her story, that after she receives her wedding gift from Musaylimah, and the whole of the Hijaz is taken over by Khalid bin Waleed radiallahu anh and the other armies and under the Khilafah of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. So she just wanted to tie up that story. Now, we have a lot to cover today. We need to move fast, but we got to have a theme because, again, this is all about learning this history, not for the facts, not for the information, not for winning arguments. It is to become statesmen. So we need to conceptualize the strategies that we learn from the history, right? And we need to conceptualize those, and then we need to learn to implement those concepts and mimic those strategies that we can mimic. Now, so the theme of today's lecture is really going to be momentum, okay? Momentum and the fruit of momentum. Like once you have Newton's law of physics, that once an objects that tend to stay at rest, they objects at rest tend to stay at rest, and objects that are in motion, they tend to stay in motion, because or they have the momentum. It's harder for them to slow down. So Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh, his army has a lot of momentum after Yamama. And we're going to discuss, what does this momentum mean? What does it mean to us today? What is it? Uh, how do we build perspective with what he did? So again, like I love to say that if you are watching this, then you are Khalid. And we can do it, and we can do it together. You and me, both of us, we can do this. We will win. It is not a matter of if, it is when, right? And whether it's us, or whether it's a generation or two generations or 100 generations, that does not matter. That is not the aqidah. This is about Jannah and Nar, and this is the mentality that we have to adopt. The mentality of Khalid that we are going to see today is a mentality that we have to have. So I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint here. Now you can see here on Google Maps that what we have to cover basically today is a journey that takes all the way up from here, Kuwait. It takes us up from Basra. It takes us up from uh, along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and we're going to go up northwest. We're going to go through all of these areas and all the way up to the city of Hira, which is present day close to Najaf. Okay, and it's really like a total of 14 battles. We can't cover every battle in detail for time's sake. Now, what we will start out with is that after after Yamama was consolidated, this is basically what the Persian Empire looked like at the time. That's in the solid orange. Okay, and what we got to understand about Persians is what we kind of imagine about British aristocracy, right? And you got like the 1700s British aristocracy, where you had the kings, and then you had the dukes under them, you had the earls, and then your Downton Abbey type of lifestyle. That's very much how the Persians were. They had five social classes. And if you ever hear like the term buzrog in Urdu, and when you speak to like people who speak proper Urdu, they'll start out a bayan or a talk, and they'll invite the buzrogs, right? So buzrogs was actually a class in the Persian Sasanian aristocracy. It was like the third class. It was the upper middle class. Buzrogan, right? So now these areas here were areas that they wanted control over, that they were fighting with the Romans over, and they were not able to get. Although they did get all the way up to Antioch, but they signed a treaty, and it stayed under Roman and Byzantine control. In Yemen, in the south over here, Feroz radiallahu anh, who he used to be the vassal of the Persians, and then he accepted Islam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam appointed his family as leaders of that region, and so this was their sphere of influence. It was their power. Just now, another map here. We're looking at the Roman Empire. We're looking at the Persian Empire. Persian Empire was much stronger at the time. What you got to know about the Persian Empire is that 100 years before the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his nubuwwat, you had their golden era basically. And I'm just going to jump to my notes here. Um, that the Persian Empire, uh, they had experienced their golden age. They had this emperor who was very um, he was very loved by the people. He won many wars. He consolidated power, and his name is Anu Shivran. And the names over here, the Persian names, you gotta forgive me if I butcher them. And we know, being Indian, we know some of these names like Khusro and whatnot, but some of the Persian names are much very difficult to pronounce. So if I butcher them, please forgive me. So let's get into it. Okay. The year is 633 in the Gregorian calendar. The year is 12 years after Hijrah. The Ridha wars have completed. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, at this time, he tells Khalid radiallahu anh that you can let any of the soldiers go home. Okay? After your mama, anybody that wants to go home, let them go home. So um, at the time, Khalid radiallahu anh had 13,000 soldiers. 11,000 of those guys, of those noble warriors, chose to go home, and he was left with 2,000 warriors. So Khalid radiallahu anh, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh asked him to build an army, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anh reinforced him. And we're going to go into the reinforcements of his army, because Khalid radiallahu anh, he enters Persia with 18,000 soldiers. Now, how did he get those 18,000 soldiers? We're going to get into that. So back to the Persian Empire, they are in a decline after their leader Anu Shivran, the immortal soul, the king of kings, who ruled from 531 to 580. He after he died, his grandson took over. His grandson killed his own father. Shiryua killed Parvel, and he killed about 18 other people of his house. But he died 7 months into his monarchy, in his reign, in his seat of power. 7 months into it, he dies. Okay, in between, so after this evil guy Shiryua, he dies. There's eight within 5 years. You had eight emperors, one after another. So it was very politically unstable climate. And the final one is one of the uncles of Shiryua, who survives his his slaughter of the men of his house. And this guy Yazjud survives. So his name is also called Arshdir. I'm gonna go with Arshdir because it's easier to pronounce. So Yazdir, he is like some unknown guy. He's hidden, but because of the political instability, his caretakers decide to reveal the truth to him and tell him who he is, how he was snuck off from the royal palace after he was born, and there's a long story to that. But basically, he comes over and he's like the rightful descendant and rightful heir, so he's able to hold power. Now, the other thing that we need to understand about this Roman Empire is that, or this Persian Empire, is that you see this area right here that I'm encircling over here. There's essentially two capitals here. Okay, okay. There's Maidan, and then the Romans call Maidan Ctesiphon. So you have Maidan and you have Hira. Okay, Hira is over here where my mouse is, and Ctesiphon is just right next to it. So right over here. So Ctesiphon is kind of like the capital of the Persians, and Hira is like the capital of the Lakamid Arab Christian empire. And now that Lakamid empire no longer exists because they basically power was taken away from them and they were absorbed into the power structure of the Persian empire. And now, so they're bitter. There's an inferiority complex. Persians think they're better than Arabs. Arabs are looked down upon as like junglis and or just jahil, ignorant people, are a lower class. They're lower than the lowest of the Persians, right? So there's definitely this huge inferiority complex, and because they were colonized by the Persians, the Lakhamids were colonized by the Persians. They adopted this colonized brain just like we have, just like the British colonized us. The Lakhamids, they had this kind of colonized brain, serve their master, die for their Persian masters, while keeping your Arab Christian identity. So they had the same this mentality that's very similar to what we have today. Uh, Now, I'm not going to get too much into they where did these Arabs come from? They came from Yemen. They came maybe a couple hundred years. I'm not going to get into the exact details. They came a couple hundred years from before Sayyidina Ali Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They came from Yemen and they settled, and then more settled, and they formed bigger tribes, and until they declared their own king, and they were called the Latin Empire, but then the Persians took them over. So that's the social makeup of the Persians and this empire that's about to be brought down. That's the strongest empire in the world. What you also need to know about the Persian Empire is that this Persian soldier is he's very pampered. He has the best of everything. He has the best. The common foot soldier has the best armor, the best chainmail, or he's got a helmet. He's got two bows and arrows. He's got a sword, a lance, whichever whatever he wants. The common Persian soldier is very well equipped. Very well equipped. Okay, so now what happens with after Yamama, Khalid radiallahu anh, basically he loses his army of 13 down to 2,000, but he's able to. The important thing we got to know here is that Abu Bakr radiallahu anh says for this Iraq campaign, this Persian campaign, do not take, do not conscript any soldiers that had committed apostasy. Okay, so if they, they have to, they cannot have that baggage and that history and that on their record if they're going to go to Persia, okay, with you, because everybody wanted to go now, because everybody, people went back to get rest and whatever, but Khalid radiallahu anhu was a magnet. When he won battles, you got war booty with it, so he was an economic magnet. Okay, so of those who did not apostatize, he was able to um, raise 10,000 in the area of Yamama. Okay, and he sent them out. He sent out his 10,000 in groups of three, in groups of thirds to this area called Nibaj over here, where my mouse is. Qaqa radiallahu anh, and we know about the beautiful stories that about him, that he's a one-man army. He's worth 1,000 fighters. He's worth 2,000 fighters. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, no army that has Qaqa radiallahu anh in it can lose. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he sent Qaqa radiallahu anh. Qaqa bin Amr. And what you also got to know about Qaqa bin Amr is that his brother Asim bin Amr is also a very famous general in this campaign that deserves mad respect, the utmost highest respect, along with Qaqa. Now, so Qaqa is sent, you got 10,000 here, you got one-man army over here. You have two groups that are already in Iraq attacking the Persians. One is Muthanna radiallahu anh, okay? He has his 2,000 with him. And you have another figure here called Madhur bin Adi, who used to be under the command of Muthanna radiallahu anh, but for some reason he's no longer obeying orders. He wants his own cavalry unit, and he also and he writes. They both write letters to Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh basically tells both of them, "You're both under the command of Khalid radiallahu anh now. Proceed and follow his directions." So you do all the math. This is about 13 to 14,000. And then other people join, and basically he enters Iraq with 18,000, an army of 18,000. There's another group of warriors that are going to go into Iraq. They're under the command of Iyad radiallahu anh, Iyad bin al-Ghanam. And what happens with Iyad radiallahu anh is a matter of historical contention. Was he sent to with some of the scholars say that he was sent with the same objective as Khalid. Some of the scholars say that no, he was just supposed to take care of Dawmatul Jandal. The version of events that we're going to go with here is the story that he was not sent to compete or race against Khalid to take over the city of Hira. He was sent to clean up the northern tribes, and he's going to come back into our story later. So real quick here, this is just what a champion Persian fighter would look like. when Khalid radiallahu would kill these guys, right? When he would make them, when he would eat these guys for, you know, he would eat, he would make mincemeat out of them, basically, right? So this is what Khalid radiallahu is getting in war booty. Now these hats, they're worth a lot of money. The Persian society, they have this identification through what type of hat you wear. So under the emperor, the most expensive hat is 100,000 dirham. Okay, then you have lower classes which are maybe like 75,000 dirham, 50,000 dirham. And a dirham is a silver coin. It's about 3 grams of silver. You know, its value. You know, I don't want to go into inflated values and whatnot, but it's a thin silver coin, and a dinar is the gold coin. It's a thin gold coin, right? So just for your own knowledge, you should know that. So Khalid killed many of these guys, and we're going to go into some of those stories of the ones he killed and what he would get. And that hat, if it was a very high ranking general, that hat's 100,000 dirham, right? And then that armor is probably just the value of the armor itself for its usefulness. It's sold in the market. You can get 5,000, 10,000, who knows, right? But knowing the number of champions that Khalid radiallahu has slayed is very high, so Khalid radiallahu has acquired a lot of riches. Okay, and he sells them. He doesn't hold on to them. He's not a person that he sells them and gets the dirhams, and he takes care of his family. Remember in the previous uh, session we said that he has up to 40 kids, and we're going to get to that as well. That's going to be tied into our subject of momentum. So this is what Khalid is getting every time he kills one of these champions that we talk about from the Persian Empire. Now, getting to the Persian Empire. Now I'm going to switch over to Google Maps. And, I told you guys that he left Medina, this area called Nuj. It's somewhere over here. They say it's 20 miles east of Buraida, or 20 miles west of Buraida. And this is the city of Buraida that we know today. In the writings of Tabari and Waqidi and whatnot, the descriptions. That area of Nibaj is 20 miles west of Buraida. So you do the geographic map. That's about where all these 13,000 gathered up, and then they proceed. Now, Persian Empire over here. Okay, this little area here, what you got to know is it's called Kuwait Bay. Okay, the northern coast of this bay is called Cosima. So the first battle that we're going to talk about is the Battle of Cosima, and it's more important for us to understand the Battle of Cosima in the context of how Khalid radiallahu defeated the army before the battle even started. You see that this is a very desirable port area, and it's controlled. So the modern day city of what's called Basra today over here in Iraq. Back in the day, that was called Ubala. And Ubala, this whole region came under the protection of a man named General Hormuz. Now, General Hormuz, he could not let Khalid radiallahu get all the way this far. He would have to stop him before he even gets close to the city. So he said, you know what, I'll fight Khalid radiallahu at Cosima. Okay. And the exact location of the battle is not known. The locals might know it or hear legends of it. There's some ancient fortifications that were found in this area. So my best guess strategically, where you need water source and everything, I kind of placed it right here by this air base. After reading all the descriptions and there's a lot of descriptions that the old scholars follow. They give, and my best guess is that it's somewhere in this region. It might be some of this region, but I think it's just most strategic that the battle would have taken place over here. Now, what Khalid does is he doesn't just meet Hormuz over here. He knows that the Roman army is much better equipped. is much better trained than Musaylama's tribal warriors, and he needs a way to beat these guys. So what he does is, and what he does is he writes letters to Hormuz saying that I'm coming and I'm going to take you over. So just be ready. And if you don't want to fight, then accept Islam, and we don't have to go through this whole mess. Um Hormuz, of course, he does not oblige, and he assembles his army of 50,000 men, I think. And this battle is called the Battle of Chains. Okay, and why it's called the Battle of Chains is because the Persian army, the soldiers, they chained each other up. So at the ankles, they chained and linked up to each other so that none of them runs away. So this battle in history is known as the Battle of Chains. Okay, and what's important about this battle to understand is that Khalid radiallahu anhu, he writes a letter, and that letter brings Hormuz out with his army to Kazima. Khalid doesn't go to Kazima. Khalid radiallahu anhu, he ends up going from Nibaj, right? From Nibaj, he can go to Kazima, or he can go to Basra, right? So instead, what he does is he stops here. This area is called Huzair. He stops here. And he just stops. He's like, okay, if I'm going to beat this well-trained, professional, elite army, well-equipped, well-fed, I got to tire them out. Because Hormuz can't risk losing the city. Hormuz cannot risk me plundering the city. So if he's come out to Kazima, that means he's left the city unguarded, and I'm going to go get the city. What that's going to do is, this is the calculus that Khalid radiallahu anhu is doing. What that's going to do is it's going to force Hormuz back to come and fight me over here so that I don't go and plunder his city. Now, we are Muslims. We don't plunder city. And, obviously Khalid does not plunder cities without provocation like this, right? So his strategy is to tire out the army. So when Hormuz, he takes all his army and he goes back over here to fight Khalid radiallahu very slowly leaves this battlefield and starts moving his army back. And he starts moving his army back very nice and slowly. Why? Because he wants Hormuz to beat him back to Kazima. Okay? He wants Hormuz to beat him back to Kazima and get really, really exhausted and tired. And that's exactly what happened. So Khalid radiallahu anh, the way he timed it was that when Hormuz comes back and he gets his camp set up and his battlefield set up, Khalid radiallahu anh arrives at that moment, and before they even get a chance to rest, the war begins. And the war begins, and there's a lot of generals that it's very important to understand in these stories and these battles, that the two generals under Hormuz, their names are Qubaz or Qubad and Anushjan. Okay. Now, Asim bin Amr, the brother of Qaqa, he is one of the generals under Khalid radiallahu anh, and Adi bin Hatim. Adi bin Hatim, who saved his tribe and saved Banu Jadila from devastation back at the Aja Mountains, he's back in command. Adi bin Hatim from last week. Okay, it's important to follow these storylines. When people talk about gems in the Sirah, when you start picking out these names and you start linking their stories, these are the amazing gems that give you context to the whole story. So, Asim bin Amr radiallahu, Adi bin Amr radiallahu, they are his generals, Khalid bin Waleed's generals in this war. And Khalid radiallahu comes to the center again, and he challenges Hormuz to the fight. Now, the fight was a stalemate. Okay, they're both hitting each other. One shield block, a hit, shield block, hit, jab, block. Right? They're both getting nowhere. So what Hormuz does is says, "Why don't we drop our weapons and fight hand to hand combat?" So Khalid agrees. Now Hormuz, he was being sneaky, dirty guy. He had already planned all this. What he told five or six of his elite soldiers is that I'm going to do this, just this exactly. I'm going to offer Khalid radiallahu hand to hand combat, and when I do that, you guys come out and jump him, and then we'll kill him. So what happens is Khalid Radian, he accepts the challenge to hand combat, and uh, Hormuz gives his sign. The five guys come out to jump Khalid Radian. Now Khalid Radian's in a predicament. What does he do? He's got this Hormuz general in front of him, and he's got five assassins around him to kill him. So what he does is he takes Hormuz, okay? He takes him and he starts swinging him around, okay? Swinging him like you do when you're little kids. You grab each other by the ankle and you start twirling each other. He's literally, that's what he does. He just starts swinging the guy round and round to block these assassins from hurting him, and that worked for a couple of seconds, and that bought him enough time that Qaqa radiallahu anh jumps out of the front lines, speed bolts it down right into the middle of where this action is happening with his horse, just tramples over the five guys and kills them. As Qaqa radiallahu anh kills these five assassins that this posse that came out to kill Khalid radiallahu anh, now he doesn't have any sword in his hand, takes out his dagger from his belt and stabs Hormuz, the general with the 100,000 dirham hat, to death. And Hormuz falls to the ground and dies with a big thud. So the Muslims, they shout Allahu Akbar, and the fatigue had caught up to the Persian army, and Qubaz and Anushjan, the two commanders, they started retreating, and along with them, the Persian army retreated as well. At this funny story is, after this battle, there was an elephant with the Persian army, and Hormuz's hat, the 100,000 dirham hat, was sent to Medina, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anh sent the hat back, and then Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, Khalid radiallahu anh sold the hat, because it's customary that if you killed a champion and got his goods, it was yours, and this is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam permitted. The elephant, it was sent to Medina. We don't know what happened to it. Now, Khalid radiallahu anh, he stays at Cosima. He kills the stragglers. Here, another very interesting story that's going to be about our story, a larger story theme here about momentum, is that Mutanna radiallahu anh, who the he's not a Sahaba, but he took this individual effort, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him immensely, to start this Persian campaign. He is sent up north to follow the stragglers of Hormuz's army. And along the way, he finds a fort, and the fort is called the Fort of the Lady. Okay, so this is very influential, charismatic, just strong personality woman that lives in this fort, and the fort is called the Fort of the Lady. So Mutanna radiallahu anh, he lays siege to this fort and invites them to Islam. And he does not have time to take over the fort. He has to go follow the army. So he leaves his brother Mu'anna. Now Mu'anna, the lady of the fort, she agrees to negotiations with him, right? And they meet to negotiate out a deal. And during those negotiations, they kind of get married. Okay, so they get married, and Mu'anna radiallahu takes out a wife and takes over the fort, and is able to bring that issue to a that fort area. He's able to use it as a forward operating base for the rest of the campaign. Okay, or that area, whether the vicinity. And so now the battle of chains is over, and you got Mu'anna radiallahu anh on the pursuit. And let's just go back to the okay, so this is done. Now they go and they get the war booty from Ubala. They get the they get the they get the they get the fort, and then there's another battle that happens over here. Now it's very vague. The locations are very vague about the next battle, but it's a very general battle. It's called the Battle of the Sini, but Sini just means river, and there's many descriptions of many battles like that. So we don't know the exact location of this battle, but this one is again. It is another general. His name is Qarin. Okay, Lanatullah alayh, because we know that what Qarin are in the ghaib, and he's another 100,000 high aristocracy general, and he brings 50,000 with him. Okay, and Khalid Adnan still has his 18,000, and Anushjan and Kubas, these two, they are under Qarin, and Qarin gets killed by, not this time by Khalid radiallahu. There's another brave warrior who comes out to battle Qarin. His name is Maqal bin uh, uh, Ashi, and Khalid radiallahu comes out to kill Qarin as well, but Maqal asks, "Let me kill this guy. Hang on, let me get one. Let me get one. You're getting all of them, okay? Come on, please share the champion killing." So Maqal, may Allah be pleased with him, he gets to kill Qarin. Now, as soon as that happens, the army gets disheartened again, and uh, now Adi bin Hatim and Asim bin Amr, they go out and they challenge Anushjan and Qubaz. And Adi bin Hatim kills Qubaz and Asim kills Qaqa. Or sorry, Asim bin Amr kills Anushjan. Okay, so now all three generals are dead. They don't know what they're doing. They break up. They run away. Okay, and again we remember this name is Suwaid bin Muqarrin. He was the one of the four commanders at Dhul Qissa, the army that rode out with Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu, and that area is called Suwaidara today. Right, he's left in charge of this area. Okay, and he establishes that headquarters, this forward operating base at it's called Hufair. I found many iterations of the name of the area. So this forward operating base that gets established. Uh, you go back to the map. This is the area right here. They established this area, the Lady of the Fort area, whatever. This is their forward operating base now. Okay, they've consolidated strength. The Muslim army has progressed up to here. So we are at 8:38. So there was 40 minutes just to get into two battles. Okay, inshallah, we got to move quick. We got to and learn a lot from this, and that's what I'm trying to do, so that we understand the theme of momentum. Okay, the third battle is the Hell of Walaja. Okay, or the Battle of Walaja. Okay, and Walaja, what happens here is the Emperor Ashdir, he organizes another army, uh, and he sends them. He sends them as soon as the last army, the last battle, was lost. He has this whole network of guys that yell really, really loud, and they're able to give him almost real time information of what's happening on the battlefield. So he immediately dispatches another army as soon as that battle of the river is over, that second battle. So he puts this general, the next general, his name is Andar Zaghar, okay? And he's accompanied with another general named Bahman. Bahman is a very high and respected nobleman. He's another 100,000 dirham hat. And these two are put in charge, and they're told to go and camp at Walaja. And at this time, Khalid Radian has established the largest intelligence network of the local Arabs in that area. He's giving them concessions in their treaties so that they establish large intelligence networks, telling him exactly what's going on in the throne room of Maidan and Tesafan. That's he's establishing this gigantic network of information. Now, So 30,000 Persians, they're dispatched out to Walaja to fight 15 to 18,000 Muslims. Muslims attacked first. It was a stalemate. And then during the stalemate, there's this champion who comes out. His name is Hazar Mard. And Hazar Mard, for those who know Urdu, means 1,000 men. Okay. Now, Hazar Mard, he comes out and he challenges Khalid radiallahu anh, and Khalid radiallahu anh kills him. We don't know exactly how he kills him, but he kills him. But what we do know is what did Khalid radiallahu anh do with him after he killed him. He sat on his body and ate his lunch. Okay. He called one of his slaves out and he said, I'm tired. After I killed this guy, he sat on the chest of this giant warrior named Hazar Mard, and he ate his lunch. So it's very symbolic. So now, then Khalid Radian orders his cavalry the night before. So why this is called the Hell of Walaja is that before this battle started, Khalid Radian was concerned about how many Persian soldiers are escaping after every battle. Tens of thousands are escaping. We're not able to, capture them, make them prisoners, send them to Medina, whatever it is. We're not able to do that. We got to find a way to encircle them and prevent escape, because it just seems like we the 2 or 3 battles we just won, it seems like they just escape. So the night before, Khalid Radian sends 2 cavalry units behind the hills of the battlefield, and he keeps fighting and he keeps fighting and he keeps fighting until the Romans are thoroughly convinced. This Andar Zaghar and Bahman, they're thoroughly convinced that there is no cavalry and that they can adopt positions that would give them that would make this battle easier on them, so they don't have to guard their rear or anything. So Khalid Radian waits till the last moment where the Muslims are exhausted, and then he calls out the cavalry through a very secret operation that he coordinated. And at that last minute, when the Persians started rearranging and reorganizing their ranks so that they can relax a little bit, that's when these 2 cavalry units from behind the hills, from the north, they came and they annihilated the Persians at Walaja. Now it said that almost all 30,000 of them died. And over here, after this battle, Khalid says to his army, he says, "Do you not see the wealth of the land of the Persians? Do you not remember the poverty of the land of the Arabs? Do you not see how the crops in this land cover the earth? But, however, if the holy war were not enjoined by Allah, then we would adopt this lifestyle." So these are very important words that we need to take heed of. If the holy war were not enjoined by Allah. Now, after the Hell of Walaja, is the 4th battle, and this is called the Battle of Ulais, and it's also called the Battle of the Bloody River. Okay, and these battles are happening very fast, one after another, right? So let's just go back to our map real quick. We're hitting 45 minutes. So, we started the Battle of the Chains, then the Battle of the River. We got the lady at the fort. Then we got we got this Battle of Ulais, right? Now, I was not able to place Walaja where it is on the map, but you could just kind of use your imagination. They're moving themselves up north. Another thing that I really want to point out is that this is the Tigris River up here on the north, and in the southwest over here, this is the Euphrates River. The Arab never fights with his back. He only fights with his back to the desert, so he can escape into the desert. So if you notice, all of these battles, they're west of the Tigris or Euphrates, right? They're west of the Euphrates. So they're not going to cross the river, because if they lose, that would prevent them from going back into the safety of the desert. Because Persian and Roman soldiers cannot survive in the desert. Okay, only the Arab can survive in the desert and knows how to survive. in the desert. So they always would fight with their back to the desert. So if they need to escape, they can escape. Okay. Okay. So actually, yeah, I did place Waleed over here, I guess. Okay. So they're moving themselves up north, and um, now the next battle, Battle of Ulais. What the cool things that happen at Ulais, the ones to take a lesson from, are that during this battle, during this battle, Khalid this is a very hard battle. Okay, and the the general, his name is Jaban in this battle. Okay, I and Jaban um, gets to the battlefield a few hours before Khalid does. Okay, before the Muslims arrive, and it was the time of their Persian biryani or whatever you want to call it. It was lunchtime. The food had just come out of the kitchens. It was hot and fresh. And if you know anything about rice, rice is best enjoyed when the lid is opened, right? You don't want it an hour old. You don't want it 2 hours old. You don't want it the next day. You want it right when the lid is open. So the lids were of the rice and the meals were opened, and all the soldiers wanted to eat. And their general Jaban told them, you know what? If you guys sit down and eat, I'm not sure you're gonna be able to finish your meal because you're gonna die. And the soldiers said, no, 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 Khalid, there's still time for until Khalid gets here. We're gonna sit down and eat. Bad decision. Um, they basically sat down and ate, and like the second bite into their food, Khalid had detected that these guys are eating, and he was able to get a victory. Now, during this battle, Khalid makes dua. He says, Ya Allah, if you give us victory, I shall see that no enemy warrior is left alive until the river runs with their blood. So after they had broken the ranks of this army, and Khalid said that this was one of the toughest battles he ever fought. Um, he said that uh, at Muta, I broke 9 swords in my hand, but I've never met an enemy like the Persians. And among the Persians, I never met an army like the army of Ulais. Okay, so this was one of the toughest battles that they had to fight. So when the Persians finally broke their ranks and they were retreating, Khalid Radian sent out his cavalry to shepherd those Persians running away back into the river so that he can kill them in the river, because that's the dua he made. And um, when Qaqa saw the amount of you know when Qaqa when he saw this, he told Khalid, we have heard that Qaqa says, if you kill all of the people of the earth, their blood will not flow as long as this river is dammed. The earth will not absorb all the blood. Let the water run. Let the water run in, and you shall keep your pledge. So basically, what happened was Khalid, he literally wanted the river to flow with blood. So he started beheading these 70,000, and he dammed up the river, okay, so that it would only be blood. Because he's like, okay, I made this wa'da to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now I gotta do it. So Aqar says, okay, you don't have to do this. Actually, just let the river flow, and your pledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be fulfilled. And there's a city called Amrishia close to this area that where the booty is taken, and all of this war booty is now being sent to Abu Bakr radiallahu, and Abu Bakr radiallahu had commented about this war booty that came from Amrishia. O Quraysh, your lion has attacked another lion and overpowered him. Women can no longer bear sons like Khalid. So this is one that famous quote about Khalid, but then this is one that happens after the Battle of the Bloody River. Okay, after now that he's gotten, now let's go back to Google to see what's going on. Okay, okay. No, that's not part of our storyline. Okay, after this, after the army has reached this area, they are within their objective of Hira. This is Hira over here. Hira is the objective, and the army has the Battle of Ulais has taken place around here. These are all approximates as best as I could guess, so don't hold me to it. The Professor Akram actually went out and drove to these areas to and talked to the local Bedouins and the villagers to try to find the exact sites. And I'm just basically following his descriptions because he didn't have Google Maps back in the day. His north is a little skewed from what he describes in his books. So, um, so don't we don't need scrutiny on that kind of stuff. So anyway, Hira is the objective that Abu Bakr had given to Khalid radiallahu, and Hira is somewhere over here. It is it's said it's obviously it's not Najaf and Kufa. These are newer cities. Hira would have been, they say, somewhere over here. That is northeast of Kufa and Najaf. Um, or they say it could. There's also ruins that they found over here as well. Okay, that's not the point. It's the area of Najaf, and so, the amazing thing is that they get it without a fight. And um, the governor of Hira, his name is Azazbeh, and he's a 50,000 dirham hat man. Before Khalid's army can get there, he dammed up the river so Khalid's men could not use it. Because Khalid Radian was amassing so much booty that he needed boats to carry all the equipment in. So he started taking the boats of the Persians and started moving everything up the river. So Azazbeh, he cut off the water flow to the river and the boat stopped. So when that happened, Azazbeh's son had set up a forward post at a place called Badqala, and at Badqala, he had set up this dam. So Khalid Radian took 200 of his best riders, went out to Badqala early in the morning, found that Azazbeh's son is sleeping. He said, "Bad mistake, buddy." He went and killed them all and reopened up the dam. Now, Bahman, who comes back later into our story and the overall story, he goes to take care of Arsdir. Arsdir, the emperor, Yazgard, whatever you want to call him, um, he has gotten sick and he is almost dead or on his deathbed. And Azazbeh, when he hears of this, he does not care about the city of Hira. He loves his emperor so much. He um, he leaves his city to go and be at his emperor's side in his dying moments. So Azazbeh gives up the city of Hira and um, uh, abandons it. Now, Hira, you can't just take it over. Hira has four forts. Even though Azazbeh abandoned it, Hira has four forts. The warriors of Khalid's army each take one fort. Dirar al-Azwar, who's a main part of our story, he takes what's he's assigned to take over the fort known as the White Palace. And while White Palace is one of the things that was mentioned in one of those prophetic hadith, that whether that this is something that they're going to take over. Now, um, the fort had a citadel. Okay, the citadel, sorry, the fort, whatever, it had a catapult. Okay, and Dirar's objective was to get that catapult, and he wanted to use it. Okay, the Arabs didn't have catapults, or they were trying to learn how to make them and whatnot, make them in mass, right? So he got the catapult and he kept using it till it was broken. Now, here is a story that comes from this story, that there's this guy named Abdul Masih. Abdul Masih, he's the owner of the fort and he is 200 years old. He's the wisest man of all the Persians. And he uh, he comes out to discuss, like, okay, what do you guys want? You know, what are you inviting us to and what are we prepared to give up? Okay, so he was 200 years old and he had apparently met Anushirwan, the 100-year-old the king from 100 years ago that revived the Persian Empire. So this guy Abdul Masih, he was fascinated by Anushirwan and would just he was depressed in his old age and he would just think about Anushirwan all the time. Now Khalid Radian and Abdul Masih, they have a conversation, and I have the conversation here. I'll go through it real quick. Oh man, we got so much to cover, but it's a really good conversation. So Khalid Radian asks to Abdul Masih, he goes, how many years have come upon you? 200, replies the sage. Khalid Radian asks, what is the most wonderful thing you've seen? And the sage replies, the most wonderful thing that I have seen is a village between Hira and Damascus to which a woman travels from Hira with nothing more than a loaf of bread. And then Khalid Radian uh, can't understand like why doesn't the guy just answer my question directly? Why is he giving me anecdotal stories? So he says, have you gained nothing from your great age but senility? I had heard the people of Hira were cunning and deceitful scoundrels, yet they send me a man who does not know where he comes from. And then the old guy, Abdul Masih, says, oh, commander, uh, truly I do know where I come from. Where do you, then Abu, but where do you come from? And Khalid replies, I come from the spine of my father. Where do you come from? And then the guy says, oh, well, I come from the womb of my mother. Then Khalid asks, "Where are you going?" And the old man replies, "To my future. What is ahead of me, or what is in front of me?" And then Khalid says, "Then what's in front of you?" Uh, or yeah, what is in front of you? And woe to you. Then the man says. Then Khalid asks, "Where do you stand?" And the man replies, "On the earth." And he says, "Woe to you! In what are you?" And he goes, "I'm in my clothes." Now Khalid Radiallahu is really losing his patience. He doesn't want all these logic based, syntax based, you know, binary type answers, right? So, like a computer, you tell the computer, how old are you, and it's going to give you the time it has started since it booted up, right? It's not going to tell you actually when it was created in the factory. So, or when the operating system was installed, right? So he's giving these logic syntax based answers. So Khalid then finally says, I only want to ask you a few questions. And the guy says, I only want to give you the answers. And then Khalid says, the earth destroys its fools, but the intelligent destroy the earth. I suppose your people know you better than I do. Then Abdul Masih finally breaks his wall and he says, oh, commander, it's the it's the ant, not the camel, that knows what is in the hole. So Khalid finally understood that this guy wanted very detailed questions, and when he didn't get his detailed questions, he was just making light of the whole situation. So then Khalid asks, tell me something that you remember. He changes his tone here. Tell me something that you remember. Now he says, I remember a time when ships of China sailed behind these citadels, and then Khalid says, I call you to Allah and to Islam. If you accept, you will be Muslims, and you will gain what we gain, and you will bear what we bear. And if you refuse, then pay the jizya. And if you refuse to pay the jizya, then I bring a people who desire death more ardently than you desire life. Then the sage replies, we have no wish to fight you. We shall stick to our faith, and we shall pay your jizya. We shall pay you the jizya. The talks are over. Now, after this, so this guy had also brought some poison with him. He wanted to kill himself if the conversation didn't go good, but he avoids taking the poison. Now, after this situation, also I'm going to share you another story. Is that what happens? Is that this guy's daughter Abdul Masih, she's a very beautiful princess, right? But Abdul Masih is 200 years old, and the tales of his daughter's beauty are renowned. So Shuail radiallahu anh had once asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that can I will if we take over Persia, can I marry the daughter of Abdul Masih, the princess who's renowned for her beauty? And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam allowed that and permitted it and guaranteed it. So Shuail radiallahu anh, he's in this army and he tells Khalid radiallahu anh that I've been promised his daughter, the princess, by Rasulullah. So Khalid asked for two witnesses. Two witnesses are brought that yes, indeed, Rasulullah had promised this, and the girl is basically 80 years old now, and barters for her freedom and asks Shuail radiallahu, what do you want? Shuail radiallahu, being a simple, humble person, said, I want 1,000 dirham. So she quickly gives him the 1,000 dirham and runs out the door. And when he comes back, he's like, oh, I got 1,000 dirham. He's happy. And everyone's like, why did you get 1,000? You could have gotten, millions for her. And Shuail radiallahu, he says that I could not think of a number higher than 1,000. So Khalid says whatever Allah does is best for us, right? So that was the story of Hira. Also, the Treaty of Hira, there is some interesting things that happened. Khalid radiallahu cavalry, all the riders had saddles for their horses and camels. One of them did not. So he put in the treaty that I need one saddle from your stable for my rider. So that was written in there. And they got 190,000 dirham per year from the city of Hira as jizya. 190,000 dirham. That was written in the treaty. Now, after this, what happens is there's two towns, Anbar and Ain Tamar. Now, Bahman, he has kind of taken over the Persian Empire because Ajdir is sick and dead, and Bahman is like the noble guy that is gonna take over overall command. And Bahman, so Khalid radiallahu writes a letter to Bahman saying, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, from Khalid bin Waleed to the kings of Persia, praise be to Allah who has disrupted your system and thwarted your designs. And if he had not done so, it would have been worse for you. Submit to our orders, and we shall leave you and your land in peace. Or else you shall suffer subjugation at the hands of a people who love death more as you love life. So Bahman now there's two cities left to conquer in this area, Anbar and Ain Tamar. Khalid goes to Anbar first, and the governor there is Shirzad. He doesn't know anything about warfare. Khalid says, after he sees the archers, I see that these people know nothing about warfare. And he basically has his archers shoot the eyes of the enemy archers and blind them to death. Then Shirzad gets scared and wants a treaty. Khalid says, nope, I don't want a treaty. I want unconditional surrender. And then basically the gates open up and they come out to fight. Khalid lures them out farther and farther and farther. And as he lures them out, bam, his cavalry hits them hard so that they don't have time to run away from the gate, right? Strategic moving back, and then boom, hit them. Next, they go down south to Ain Tamar, and this is a much harder fight. It's a military, it's a garrison. There's the people that occupy this town are all ex-military. The town is called the Spring of Dates. There's an Arab area, the Bani Namar, that works the land, and the Bani Namar, their leader is Aqa. Aqa is kind of like the de facto king of all the Christian Arabs in Iraq. He is Khalid. When this fight happens, Khalid makes sure that Aqa is taken alive, so that when they all hide in their fort, Aqa can be paraded outside and demoralize these Christian Arabs that were fighting along with the Persians. Okay, after they take over these towns, and let me just paint the map for you. So they take over Hira, right? Now, this area over here, this is Ain Tamar, okay? And this area over here, that's Anbar, right? This has been in the news recently. So first they take over Anbar, and then they take over Ain Tamar. So they come down south. Now, After this, what happens is that General Iyad that we talked about in the beginning, he calls out for help. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anh tells Khalid radiallahu anh, go and help Iyad al-Ghanam at Dawmat al-Jandal. So now from here, where my red dot is, Khalid radiallahu anh comes all the way back here. To fight who? To fight Uqaydar. Who was Uqaydar? Uqaydar was the prince that was hunting the Oryxes at night, who got captured and held hostage, and who agreed to pay all the jizya on the expedition of Tabuk. That's who Uqaydar is. So Uqaydar is finally defeated here. He does not want to submit. So they lay siege to this area. Iyad al-Ghanam needs help. He to lay the siege, and the siege is laid. Khalid attacks from the north, draws out the fighters, and does the same charge where he draws them out away from the gate, and then bam, pow, hits them hard so they can't run back to their gate with his cavalry, and they're done. They eventually, I think they fight to the bitter end. The folks here at Dawmat al-Jandal, many of them die. Now Khalid takes Iyad al-Ghanam with him and all of his soldiers. So we got first soldiers, and he comes back to Hira. Right? Where's Najaf? He comes back over here. Now, the next events that happen, and I know we're hitting the 1 hour and 7 minute mark here. So it's a good place to pause. If you want to pause, take a break, you want to continue with us later, you want to watch it the next day, this is a great place to pause because Hira has been taken over. But the next thing that the Persians do is very complex, and it's you want to understand with the fresh brain. So, inshallah, it's hard to describe, but I'm going to do my best. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do a split screen here. So that we can do this together. Okay, inshallah. Bismillah. Any questions, let me know. If things aren't adding up for you, let me know. There's a lot that I'm leaving out. But the whole thing is momentum here. Look at it. Like we can't even keep up with our brains, let alone the actions, right? So oh, this is not working out. Okay. Okay, I'll do my shit on here. We'll try the other way. Bear with me here. Because I want to finish this Persian campaign today, so that we can do the Roman campaign in our next session, and then we can do Yarmouk and give the right of the Battle of Yarmouk its time and basically give it its right. So now Bahman, basically what he does is after Khalid radiallahu anh comes back and he's stationed at Hira, Bahman says, okay, I need to collect all the Arabs left, and I need to collect all the Persians I can get left that can fight, and I need to try to strike a final blow. So he sends one. He tells he has a general named Rusbe, and he sends him to this area called Husayd. Okay, and Husayd is right there, right where my red dot is there. Okay, and he sends a general named Zar Mahar to an area called Khanafis. Okay, Khanafis is over there. So over here and over here, two Persian armies, Husayd and Khanafis. Okay, Zahmar is at Khanafis, and Ruzbeh is at Khanafis. Now, Khalid radiallahu anh, okay, he tells the Christians, you guys also assemble all your soldiers. Okay, so he tells them, they killed your king Akka, and they paraded him around. You need to get revenge for it. So two Christian generals, their names are Huzail and Rabia. Okay, Huzail bin Imran and General Rabia. Okay, so General Huzail, he starts making his army over here at Muzaya, and General Rabia is over here at Sani, and this area called Zumail. Okay, so he's gathering Christians here, he's gathering Christians here, and the other general, Imran, the Arab general, is over here, and he is this area is called Muzaya. All right, this whole battle now, what happens is called the Battle of Muzaya. Okay, and it's simple enough if you just read, if you understand what happens over here, and that's just textbook information. But we're not about that. We're about becoming statesmen here, right? So Khalid says, if all of these forces combine, this is going to be like 80,000 to 120,000 fighters under in one army. There's no way that we can fight that big. So what Khalid says, I have to fight each army individually before these four can unite. Okay, actually these five. Okay, these Muzaya and Sani and Zumail and Hanafis and Husayd. Before these five armies can unite, I need to take care of them one by one. Okay, and so he sends out Qaqar and Asim bin Qaqa bin Amr, and another new general amongst the Muslims. His name is Abu Layla. Okay, so he sends Abu Layla over here, right? So the Muslims are over here at Hira, and he sends out Abu Layla over here to Husayd, and he sends Qaqa over here to He sends Qaqa over here to Khanafis. Okay, and Abu Layla does not make it in time. His journey is obviously a lot longer, so he does not make it in time. Okay, and what happens is Khalid, he brings his army up over here to Ain Tamar. Okay, he brings his army up over here to Ain Tamar. He sends Abu Layla over here to Khanafis. Abu Layla does not make it in time, and Husayd is over here. Husayd fights. Qaqa fights. Qaqa fights the Persian general over here, defeats him. This general calls the general of this army over, says, "Hey, help me out and bring your army, or else we won't be able to win." And the army of Qaqa and Abu Layla, they're only 5,000 in size. So despite those small numbers, that 5,000, this general asked for this 30,000 army to come and help him. However, it was too late. Qaqa's army had killed Zarmahar, and these guys' names aren't even worthy of being known, so whatever, I don't, that's okay. Anyway, both Zarmahar, he calls out to help for Ruzbeh, and Ruzbeh comes, but he does not. He leaves his army there, and he comes alone. Big mistake. Ruzvan's, they're both killed, and the army flees and they join up over here. So these two armies now join up. Abu Layla and Qaqa, uh, they try to fight them over here. They win. Basically, all of these armies finally, slowly, they keep escaping until they finally unite over here at Muzaya. And at Muzaya, we don't have a lot of the details what happened at Muzaya, but um, um, basically the Muslims, they have a very solid, lasting, impactful victory at Muzaya, and at this was also the famous story of when there were Muslims living in this area, regular civilian Muslims who were killed, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu had said that this happens to Muslims who live amongst infidels, but he'll pay the blood money. So those Muslims had complained that in Khalid's attack, two Muslim families died. So this is that, just so that you have context to the story, that we read these individual stories from hadith and lectures at events that we go to, but we don't know the whole um, context of how it happened. There's hundreds of thousands of soldiers going into the city, and who's who nobody knows. So these things happen. Now another this kind of consolidated the whole uh, western front of the Persian Empire. Okay, Ctesiphon Maidan is the only thing left, and Bahman is sitting there ruling it. Okay, um, this area gets taken over later in the Battle of Qadisiyah. After the Battle of Qadisiyah, Qadisiyah is over here. This town, it still exists. But, yeah, but what I'm mean to talk to, go back to the theme of today, is that momentum is synergy. You have the laws of the Deen of Islam feeding each other to enable this type of movement, right? You have the economic structure, you have the family structure, you have the dietary rules, the ibadah, the worship of, and um the submission to Allah, the cleansing of the inner soul. All of these things, they work together in synergy, and and these type of efforts are possible. Okay, everything works together. How are they gonna, how does Islam replenish the head count that's lost in these battles? Well, you have to have a lot of sex, and you have to make a lot of babies. Okay, the social system is set up for that to happen. Okay, it's connected. Sex and jihad, yes, absolutely, it is connected. If you don't understand it, then you're not, you know you're not worthy to be a statesman. Absolutely, our money, our self-discipline, um how we uh the control of the individual family, down to the caring of a society, the psychological nature, the mental health amongst the society. All of this plays into it. And what is being produced? What is being produced is the perfect salah. That is what's being produced. It's afiyat in the self, and the perfect salah. A salah where a man, he has the pure ikhlas in his heart. He's not worried about where his next Medicaid prescription is going to get filled or not, or how much copay he owes. He's not spending his salah making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about prescriptions that he doesn't know he can pay for, or the pain that his parents are in because he can't afford to buy the medicine. He is glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the top of his heart, with all of his heart. Okay, there is more amplitude to the glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the salah when all of these things happen. Now, all of these things are absolutely part of the system, which is an obligation in and of itself. But what is the end product? What is the perspective? It is the perfect salah, the perfect worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it only happens when the ikhlas is there. And what that means is that the effort and all the commands, whether the economic system, the social system, the courts, the 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 fiqh of jihad, all of that is being implemented, right? All of that is synergy. It all works together. And, this is the end product, the perfect worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He wants us to worship Him. And we can do it. And that is the Islamic way of life. And that's what we need to do. We need to resume the Islamic way of life. And the onslaught of battles, one after another, and after another, that's what happens, victory after victory. That's what happens when all of these things are in perfect harmony with each other, with the barakah of Allah, the blessing and shifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you are following the ahkam that He has ordained. You're following the money laws, the economic system, the rules of the wealth and currency. You're following the family structure, you're following the food, the dietary food. You're following the ibadat, the Ramadan, all of it is synergetic. And when it all comes together, this is what happens. The greatest empires in the world fall at the same time. Okay, and what happens? The people accept Islam, and the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the amplitude of the glorification, the glorification is amplified, the volume of the worship is increased, and that's all working together. You can't have one without the other. It all feeds itself. And that is the main theme that I wanted to really hammer home today, that this onslaught of battle after battle, victory, 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 that's how it happens. If you think it's going to happen by wishful thinking and some other shortcut routes, and you're not going to do anything, you're going to pray and you're going to abandon all the other ahkam, not going to happen. So we can do it. You can do it. I can do it. You are Khalid. I am Khalid. We can do it together. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Real fast, we'll end with dua. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين إن الحمد لله الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد اللهم انك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عني اللهم اجرني من النار اللهم اجرني من النار اللهم اللهم آه، اللهم اني اسالك العافيه اللهم اني اسالك العافيه والرحمه والنصره آمين يا رب العالمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Next week, Roman Empire. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.